will not speak about the background and objectives. Kuda has already spoken about that. I just would like to highlight one aspect that we have learned throughout these 2 years. The TFCA Financing Facility offers an opportunity for all the relevant stakeholders to jointly decide in an informed way and consensual way where to allocate the funds through the Project Steering Committee. The composition of the Project Steering Committee is made up by member states through the double troika, as I indicated, and this was to address the guidance that was provided by the member state during their Council of Ministers to ensure the ownership of the member state in this funding. And that's why we have 6 member states that are there on rotation basis to guide the implementation of the fund. But in addition to that, all the relevant funding partners are sitting in that Project Steering Committee. So far we have KfW, but we have invited EU, has attended our last Project Steering Committee as an observer, and we would like to invite all the partners that are here to be part of the Project Steering Committee so that you own this process. This process is all ours. We would like also to include the private sector, the local communities, and whoever is interested in funding and guiding the use of funds in our region. For us, this is the best approach, to have everyone seated, channeling the funds, discussing and agreeing and moving forward based on informed discussion and consensual discussion. All the relevant ICPs, including all of you that you are seated here in the Project Steering Committee. Also, as I have indicated, to have all the private sector, and we are looking forward for them to be part of this process. We are also looking for member states co-funding. We know that some member states, they have already developed their funding. In Mozambique, we have the most bio. So it would really be important to be part of this forum. We are looking also with all our keen interest to EU through Nature Africa. We are already discussing on this. We have in pipeline 65 million euros, 28 for the period between 2022 to 2024, and 37 million from 25 to 27. So we are looking for further discussion, and if it will be agreeable to put a significant portion through these mechanisms. We are also in discussion with the legacy funding to see whether they can co-fund some of the activities, and obviously the philanthropic supporters that may be invited to be part of this. And I would like to request the participants to try to link us with them so that we boost our funding. I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and dear moderator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Domingo. Now it's our pleasure to invite Mr. Lusa Boa-Anuku, Regional Director for Iucn Eastern and Southern Africa region. Lusa.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister, Engineer Collins Nzovu, the Deputy Minister, Barbara Nzonzi, the Director of FNR, Domingos Gofe, and the other staff from the Secretariat. Also the KfW representative, the EU representative, and also other development partners here present. All gives me great pleasure to be a part of this meeting this afternoon. This is a long-awaited donor coordination event, and we are happy that this is happening right at the backdrop of the very first Iucn Africa Protected Area Congress, which is taking place here. This Congress brings together different stakeholders, government officials, brings in government leaders, brings in citizens and interest groups to discuss the role of protected areas. And one of the major aims of this Congress is actually to underscore the importance of protected areas, which is often undervalued because then especially the ecosystem services that protected areas provide goes far beyond just the economics. It goes into the social, it goes into the ecological benefits that we all do enjoy. This Congress is taking place right at the end. I don't know whether we are recovering or still going on with the COVID pandemic, but we have a feeling that we are recovering from the pandemic, the fact that we have been able to organize this. But certainly we have all experienced the effects and the impacts of COVID, which has called for the need for coordinated actions across multiple sectors and across political boundaries. I would just want to commend the SADC member states for the designation of the 18 transfrontier conservation areas in 16 SADC member states, which is projected to cover about 700,000 square kilometers of land and marine landscapes, with the aim to scale up support and recognition. It's also a means to accelerate support to conservation efforts in the Saddaq region. As a fund manager for the TFCA Financing Facility, Iucn has made significant progress since its launch in April 2020. I think you already listened to some of the major areas, but I just wanted to highlight that we set up a grant management system and policies, also the operational manual, and established the program management unit, and the launch of 2 calls for proposals. One was very specific to address what we're calling the COVID-19 package, and then the very first open general call for proposals. Currently, we have about 23 ongoing projects and those in pipeline for the financing facility. One of the key topics of this Congress, as you have already heard, is major funding shortfalls for the management of Africa's protected areas, which has stirred a huge debate on how to sustainably fund Africa's protected areas beyond traditional funding mechanisms. There is no doubt that the demand for conservation finance in the region greatly outstrips supply. For example, we observed that our first call for proposals for the TFCA Financing Facility was oversubscribed, with a total volume of funding requests exceeding 100 million euros. This lack of adequate financing of protected and conserved areas has for a long time posed a critical challenge for the conservation sector across the Saddaq region. The COVID-19 global pandemic has further compounded this problem due to the devastating impacts on the region's economies. We all know that the tourism sector, which is a vital source of revenue for protected and conserved areas, has been hard hit by COVID. Many communities lost their jobs and key sources of livelihood. Conservation authorities lost tourism revenue, which is a source of funding for their day-to-day operations. These are some of the challenges that the Saddaq Financing Facility is striving to address through its grant-making mechanism, which includes a COVID-19 relief mechanism made available to SADC member states. The COVID support is being channeled towards short-term employment creation for local communities, support to park operations such as anti-poaching, clearing of invasive species, infrastructure and road maintenance, tourism support and alternative livelihoods for local communities. We have heard that the first phase of the TFCA financing facility is 6 years, from 2020 to 2026, with an initial investment of about 25 million euros from the German government channeled through KfW. In the medium term, the intention is to leverage additional funds from other partners to reach an operational volume of approximately 100 million euros Again, this target of 100 million euros was set up by the Saddaq ministers. When the discussion was going on the level of the financing facility, they set up this ambition of about 100 million euros. In light of this ambition, Iucn wishes to thank the government of Germany for this contribution through KfW, and also want to call upon other development partners to join them on this journey to help to contribute to a sustainable conservation and management of the region's outstanding landscapes and seascapes. With these remarks, as Iucn, I would look forward to working with you closely in the coming years to support the implementation of the financing facility as a sustainable financing mechanism. We also want at this point to express our gratitude, especially to the Saddaq Secretariat and also the steering committee for the leadership they have provided in this process. And we look forward to actually having this financing facility as one of the showcase models or mechanisms for financing protected areas in the continent. And already we see the demand for this from other sub-regional blocks who are willing to learn from this. So let's take the opportunity and see how to scale this up. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Luther, for such a very interesting reflection on the work that has been done so far with regard to the SADC TFCA. We have heard about the very interesting benefits, collaborations, partnership that has been developed throughout the process. We know very well that it was not easy, it was not a walk in the park, but the excitement that our communities, our partners, they are coming on board, not only to work with us, but also to identify possible future scenarios with regard to biodiversity conservation, trans-boundary engagements, which we did not only focus on biodiversity. We've got water, we've got people, and including to that, there's still other key issues that we need to talk to. We have heard from the SADC TFCA as well, financing facility as well, from the COVID issues, how we have responded, how this facility has actually did assist us greatly in terms of responding to the COVID challenge. Today we sit here, we are proud of the work that has gone down to the different communities and the benefits that it has been drawn by different local communities. I would like to take this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to invite to the podium the Honorable Minister. And in short, let me just read his profile. I'm a big fan of Chipolo Polo, so you know what happens. We are in the presence today, we've been joined in the presence today of our Honorable Minister, is the Engineer Collins Zovu. In South Africa, I was going to be saying Zovu, or I will be saying Tau or Toro. He's the Minister of Green Economy and Environment in Zambia. He's a civil water and environmental engineer by profession, with long and practical experience in the environmental science, civil and hydropower engineering. So you know when you're dealing with these kind of ministers, you don't just come with manga projects. There must be very clear what you want to measure, what is the contribution, what is the impact and the value of the work that you need to be doing. He has got expertise in terms of meteorological services, flood control, disaster risk management, and climate change actions, both adaptation and mitigation. So we're also going to champion here for climate change work. The Minister is fully engaged with various ideologies that promote transition to green economy as a precursor to sustainable development, which is one of the key areas that this facility will be exploring as we move forward. Minister Zovu believes that Africa should have increased access to adequate and predictable financing facilities, as well as institutional capacity that will assist in terms of managing and assuring sustainable finance for sustainable growth. We have the pleasure, please join me, ladies and gentlemen, to call and request the Minister to grace us on the table. Minister Engineer Collins Zovu.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure whether Minister Rose is around. Just to recognize your presence. Other dignitaries present here. Indeed, it's very exciting for me to participate. I want to make it very, very clear. SADC is one. And seeing distinguished ladies and gentlemen from all institutions represented here is very gratifying. I see people from Botswana, Namibia, Angola, Mozambique, Malawi, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. To the donors, this is indeed a very, very interesting region to be in. And what a time to support this region. Because this is you are now standing at a time when governance issues, tangible plans and clear plans for environmental protection are very clear in each of these countries. This is a time when SADC is collaborating very, very, very closely. As the name itself says, transboundary. This is a time when temporal barriers, temporal boundaries do not matter that much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, listening very attentively to the presentations before me makes me believe, and to the donors, makes me believe that very clear, we have a very clear roadmap where we want to go on these issues, thematic areas of the people, species, and habitat. And indeed, how we manage our natural resources to ensure that the triple planetary crisis is managed. Climate change is real. There's biodiversity loss, there's pollution, there's land degradation. How do we together manage them in a holistic manner? It was also interesting to note that the total coverage area from the 18 TFCAs is about 700,000 kilometers squared. That's like 10% of the area of SADC. It means that there's a chance for us doing more. When you look at your efforts, your own efforts, Iucn, the German Federation, KFW, and other donors, the journey you are on is very fruitful. The results are showing. In my own country where you are supporting us, there's a regeneration. There's more wildlife now. The environment is being better kept. When I look in other jurisdictions, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, you can see the same. To you, I tell you, what a good time to invest. Threats to conservation biodiversity are well documented in the SADC region and Africa as a whole. The major threats to biodiversity include anthropogenic activities across the regions and the entire continent. Very well documented also. This continues to result in habitat destruction, fragmentation and degradation, as well as overexploitation of indigenous species and introduction of exotic or invasive species that may increase the spread of diseases. Again, to the donors and to ourselves, data to support this is readily available. Other threats including climate change, chemical and biological pollution, indeed from agricultural activities as well as mining, illegal logging and poaching, and loss of plant pollinators. These are issues our collaboration as one, speaking as SADC, with the donors can take care of. Transfrontier conservation areas, including the Iucn TFCA, which involves Malawi and Zambia, the Kavango Zambezi one, as well as the Zimoza, all are anchored on sustainable environmental protection, sustainable wildlife protection, protection of biodiversity loss, and indeed ensuring that effects of climate change are mitigated and resulting into improved livelihoods of our people. As a politician, this is key for me. As we do all whatever we are doing, the livelihoods of the people in the SADC region must be improved. I'm just coming from another session where, as we do everything we commit ourselves to doing, the livelihoods of the indigenous people, of the local people, must be at the center of our actions. The role of communities in TFCAs. The concept should embrace culture that promotes active community participation in management of biodiversity. Again, community participation. Communities and other interest groups should identify and share experiences, knowledge and related challenges and opportunities on conservation and cultural tourism. Promotion of community-based tourism opportunities. Participation in developing and enhancing mechanisms that reduce human-wildlife conflict. These must be at the center as Iucn comes on board or continues in their efforts. These must be taken into account. And for your information, as SADC member states, we have committed to coming up with the relevant laws to speak to, ensuring that the very livelihoods of the people who want to improve are at the center. What are some of the benefits of a TCA? Promoting sustainable ecosystem management, indeed, holistically, with increased capacity to provide the necessary goods and services among participating countries. No boundaries. Contributing to regional security, stability, and promoting South-to-South cooperation and natural resource management among member states. Issues of sustainable natural resource management result in good governance, it results in security of the nation. Facilitating development of management, that's ecological plans for effective management of commonly shared natural resources, thus increase biodiversity and ecological health. This initiative contributes to increased tourism, with communities benefiting through employment and the sale of goods and services. To the financials, we are looking at capacity building and training. Training of wildlife police officers and forest officers in different skill sets to prevent poaching, very bad sketch, poaching, illegal logging, and other illegal activities in these areas. Indeed, the TCA are key in promoting regional collaboration on transboundary management of natural resources through collaborative work. And that brings me to another point. I think one of the presenters here was looking at financing up to 2026. What happens beyond 2026? The challenge is to you, my colleagues, especially the technocrats. Can you present to us projects, bankable projects, to go beyond 2026? 6, 7, 8 member states cannot fail. The challenge is back to you. Present to us that which is clear and that which works, so that once we go to the donors, once we go to the other leaders in the SADC region, whom I've been very privileged to meet, and whom I can speak very confidently that they are on board on this trip. They are on board on this journey. I was just meeting the Zimbabwean Minister of Environment and Tourism, Honorable Love. He speaks the same language, just like other ministers and heads of state in the SADC region. Technocrats rise to the challenge. Support in patrolling the areas. Support in patrolling the areas. Motorable transport. This is key. Joint investments in TFCAs. This is key. Together as SADC, we are strong and can do things better. Individual countries cannot. So we're coming together. And to the donors, I think this is more interesting because the security is increased by us coming together. Packaging and advertising, marketing for increased tourism, again, jointly. The niche is big in the world. Zimbabwe cannot operate alone. Zambia cannot operate alone. Let's come together and get into the niche. Support of strategic financing. Indeed, to the donors, we are ready for business. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, there's need to establish more transfrontier conservation areas and maintain the observances in the existing ones. for sustainable ecosystems and benefits thereof for not only the local communities, but for all the citizens of all participating countries. Work began. Work has to be upscaled. Data collection, collaboration, don't work in isolation. To this, to the donors, to all SADC member states, to all you here, represented at the highest levels, be it in the tourism sector, in the environmental sector, in the water sector, in the index sector. The challenges come together. Tell us what needs to be done. The political leadership is with yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Honorable Minister Ndozu, for your powerful speech with passion, and he highlighted the power of partnerships and working together holistically. He also highlighted building on the existing transfrontier conservation areas, interventions for scaling up. With these passionate remarks, we are now moving on to the exciting panel discussions. Thank you very much. And with this, I'm pleased to introduce the 4 distinguished panelists representing development partners. I'd like to formally introduce Mr. Carsten Sandhope, Head of Division for Governance, Resource Management, Southern African Department of the KfW Headquarters in Germany. And Ms. Chantal Marie Sen, she's a head of unit for environment, sustainable natural resources from European Union in Brussels. Pleased to introduce Ms. Angela Hawk. She's a director of the Regional Environment, Education and Democracy Office at USAID Southern Africa from Pretoria. And pleased to introduce Mr. Chipangura Chirara. He's a project manager for JEF6 projects of the UNDP Zimbabwe country office from Zimbabwe. Thank you very much. To stimulate this panel discussion lively, we would like to share the 2 questions to set the scene. The first question is, during the APAC Congress, we learned that it is estimated 90% of Africa's protected and conserved areas are underfunded, and clearly, Southern Africa is not an exception. In the next 5 to 10 years, how does your organization plan to contribute towards closing these gaps? That's the first guiding question. The second guiding question is, how can we bring in more diversified partners to join forces to increase investment for transfrontier conservation areas? With these 2 questions in mind, now I would like to ask each panelist to talk about what are your current and planned activities relating to biodiversity conservation in the Saddaq region and transfrontier conservation areas in particular in the coming next 5 years? Can we start with Mr. Carsten?
Yes, yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, okay, thank you. Yes, I will try to answer these questions in my contribution here. First of all, I would like to thank for the good cooperation and hard work of people involved in creating the TFCA Financing Facility. This is the staff of the SADC Secretariat and our good partners here of Iucn, who have really done a hard work to make this happen, and I'm glad that we can talk about the TFCA Financing Facility here. Also, I would like to thank the member states, and I found very representative the speech of Minister Nwosu, who embraces the idea of TFCA cooperation and of the financing, joint financing of the TFCA activities. So thank you very much for that. Second, I want to highlight, and this is already answering the first question, what can we do to close the funding gaps? I want to highlight the simple message. It comes already with the invitation. We do have a financing mechanism here for activities for biodiversity protection in TFCA areas in Southern Africa. There are a lot of panels on sustainable financing of biodiversity protection and use of sustainable resources. Lots of them talk about how can we find funds, how can we create mechanisms to do this, to finance these activities. Here we do have a financing facility. It's already there. I mean, we have the structure, we have the first funding, and we have all safeguards that come along. We have a mechanism to channel these funds. The first call went out. We have proven that it can react fast and with impact when we designed the response to the COVID-19 response through the financing facility. So there are all elements of success there, and that's one thing I would like to highlight for KfW, for financing cooperation. Now I'm speaking also for my Ministry of Cooperation, German Ministry of Cooperation and Economic Development. The TFCA financing facility for the cooperation with Saddaq will be the focal area of cooperation. So in the coming years, there will be future contributions by the German. I'm not really entitled. I'm from an executing agency as a German development. I'm not really entitled to say so. I will not mention numbers. I will not mention anything else politically, but I can just say there will be future contributions given during the government negotiations of German government with Saddaq to this TFCA financing facility. So that's already one step from the German government side to close this gap. It's not only financing, so there's a joint commitment of the German government. It also includes our technical cooperation with our colleagues from GIZ. I'm glad Director Gova also mentioned them. Also, they will, of course, continue to support Saddaq and the financing facility with their advice and with their technical assistance. And so that's the point again. We do have a financing facility, and there will be. Therefore, I'm also very happy that the head of the unit of the EU, the environmental unit of the European Union, European Commission is here with us, Chantal Marinissen, because here we also have a good example for another partner joining the TFCA facility, so that it is already a joint effort. And I didn't like that much that it was always said, we have an initial contribution by the German government. It was only the German government so far, so it is a joint effort from now on, and that I think is very, very good. And that brings me to my third and second point. I very much support the pledge made by the SADC Secretariat, in this case represented by Director Gove, to use the TFCA financing facilities, and this pledge went out also to other donors and development partners who might consider to support the protection of biodiversity in the Saddaq region in Southern Africa. In his keynote speech, and also the Minister Ndozo did in his keynote speech, they pointed out on the value of biodiversity in the SADC region, and that not only for the sake of protection, but also for the sake of economic development and the sustainable use of natural resources. So it is very important sector, and I think there might be other development partners and donors thinking to support financially activities in the region. So please don't create parallel structures, don't you have your project, of course, but please use the system that is there. Use the TFCA financing facility to channel funds to the objectives, to channel funds to the protection of biodiversity and the use of sustainable resources in the SADC region. So that's my take, and I try to answer the two questions, and I hope I was clear on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carsten of KFW. You stressed that, you highlighted that we do have the financing mechanism in Southern Africa in place, which is the financing facility already. And also, you also highlighted the joint commitment of the government of Germany to the future contribution to the financing facility. That is great. And also you really welcomed the other partners' contribution from EU, Ms. Chantal. And finally, you also highlighted the Mr. Domingo's statement that the SADC Secretariat suggested to use the existing financing facility to other development partners for enhancing conservation outcomes in Southern Africa. With this, I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Chantal of EU.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. Yes, good. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, first I'd like to thank the SADC Secretariat and the Member States, Iucn and KFW for inviting me to join this panel. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it's a real pleasure to learn about the SADC region. You're a very dynamic region. You've got fantastic biodiversity, and we know that it's really an asset for your socio-economic development, your cultural development. It's also important to the world, obviously. So we really want to work with you to be able to conserve, restore when necessary, and sustainably manage for the benefit of your people, but also of European people, because whatever is done, here, it has consequences for our continent as well. So you've been piloting or developing the transboundary conservation areas, I think, since the 1990s. And you've now got 18 of them. Your Excellency, you mentioned 7 million kilometers square that they're covering. This is really important for us, because it's what we're seeing from the SADC program is that what we're developing on the Nature Africa and the SADC program, it's the same approach. So it's very easy for us to come in support, because we've got the same priorities for the programs. Now, I think a lot of you have been hearing both me and my colleague Pablo explaining about Nature Africa. It's about conservation, it's about restoration of ecosystems, it's about sustainable management of these ecosystems around wide landscapes. So we're not just talking about biodiversity in a sort of a purist form, we're really looking at it from the benefits it can provide to people, to communities. We are, after all, the Directorate General for International Partnerships, so for us, it's really the benefit for the human population that we're looking at, and we don't think that we can protect anything without protecting people in any case. This new initiative is going to be done in tranches. At the moment, we're developing both the programs at the national level, and they are complemented by regional programs, and the funding for the sort of the wider regional programs targeting 6 mega landscapes around Africa, so not just the SADC. For the period of 2021 to 2024 is 160 million. For the SADC region, there's an earmark of 33 million for that period of time, and it's going through our system at the moment, so hopefully by the end of the year, our Commissioner will be signing off on that. So the support that we're going to be giving is on governance, biodiversity, conservation, and socio-economic development. That's green economy. So I'm really happy, Your Excellency, that you are the representative of the member states on the panel today, because that's what we're going to, that's what's really important for us. And in fact, that's also part of my mandate for my department in DG INPA. For the SADC region, we're looking at 6 of your trans-frontier conservation areas: Kaza, the Lower Zambezi Manipools, Zimoza, Maza, Chimanimani, and the Greater Limpopo, which I hope I've pronounced correctly. We want to first do this first phase with you, and then I think that allows us to have dialogue and do an evaluation of how it develops. And then, of course, there would be a second phase where we decide to either reinforce what we're already doing, or we could also think about expanding the areas that we're looking at. But that's all done based on what we'll be doing first at the moment, and then, we decide together where we need to go from there. Now, the actions are going to be regional, cross-border, so very much in line with the SADC program. As I said, there will also be some national level programs that they will build on. We're going to work, obviously, with Germany to continue the reinforcement that GIZ, I think, has been working with you and the SADC Secretariat. And then, of course, I think what everybody seems to be waiting for, and what Carsten has already mentioned, we're joining Germany and SADC and Iucn on the financial, the fund, because it speaks to us. It's exactly your objectives are exactly what we want to do, and we know that Iucn, as you were saying, has a proven record managing small grants through the fund, but also for us through SOS and the Bioparma, and has been complementing what you've been doing also in relation to the COVID pandemic. So we're reassured as partners that we've got a good system up and running. The budget that we're going to provide can't be entirely confirmed because we need the approval of our member states. But it's going to be between 13 and 15 million for this first phase. And at the end of the year, we'll have to be in the running sort of starting blocks to start the contracting to make sure that we're up and running really fast. We're really looking forward forward, obviously, to working with Saddaq and KFW and Iucn to officialize our participation, to discuss the priorities and the modus operandi. So, you know, and we see all that you're doing as the support that we should be giving also in the context of the negotiations on the CBD. So this is all part of the doubling of the biodiversity financing that my president announced last year in September. Now, as you were asking about other partners and bringing them in, obviously, we would like to see the other partners on the panel come into the financing fund with us in Saddaq. But this isn't the only way that we're going to be working. We have got a new financial instrument. It has what we call the European Sustainable Investment Fund. And it's going to allow us to do blending of grants and loans. So up until now, I've only been talking about our grant side. And we're also going to be having guarantees, thanks to the European development institutions, financial institutions. And Carsten is a good representative with KFW. And my colleague Pablo has been talking with these financial institutions, and we know that we've got proposals for guarantees that are coming up through the system. They had to put them in, their deadline was the 12th of July, so you've got to give us a little bit of time to go through them, but be aware that there are programs for guarantees that are coming up. And some of them are landscape approaches, and some we know have been targeting the areas that we're targeting under Nature Africa. So for the SADC regions, the ones that I've been mentioning. So I'd really like to join Your Excellency in calling for not only the governments of the SADC region, the administrations, but also to be talking to the private sector so that you're talking with our financial institutions to come up with pipelines of financing projects in the area of green economy, because that's what it's going to be in this case. And that's why it's so good, Your Excellency, that you're here on the panel, because that's what we think these guarantees are going to be able to support. And I think the SADC region is an excellent region to be able to demonstrate that we can do this. So on that, I would like to hand back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chantal. You have highlighted a few key messages which are very important to all of us. These include that the approaches the SADC TFCA Financing Facility and EU's Nature Africa taking are the same approach. Therefore, it's a natural, partnership for EU to join with the German government in implementing the SADC TFCA Financing Facility as a new partner through Nature Africa initiative for biodiversity conservation and economic development for Southern Africa. And more specifically, for potential support for SADC TFCA financing facilities through Nature Africa, the Nature Africa will take phased approaches. For phase 1, will be coming soon and wish to formalize it by December,
to be on the safe side.
December, in line with the CBD COP, for biodiversity outcomes. And Ms. Chantal also highlighted the European Sustainable Investment Funds mechanism and they have currently established the grant, the components, but the guarantee will be coming very soon for the de-risking, especially for the private sector's participation. And this guarantee support include landscapes, which is relevant to what we are doing. So Ms. Chantal is calling all Saddaq ministers to join forces with the private sector for optimizing this new mechanism. With this said, I'd like to ask Ms. Angela for your intervention. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, great. First of all, I'd like to thank the SADC Secretariat, the member states, KFW, Iucn for inviting me to join you today. USAID Southern Africa works on focusing on transboundary environmental issues in the Southern Africa region. And for over the past 5 years, we've invested over $67 million and partnered with several conservation organizations and other institutions, many that are here with us today, and have had an opportunity to present their wonderful work over the past few days at the pavilion to combat wildlife crime and to conserve the rapidly declining biodiversity in 4 priority landscapes, which are home to key elephant and rhino populations. And these include the Greater Limpopo, the Malawi, Zambia, and the Kavango, Zambezi transfrontier areas, as well as Northwest Namibia. And they've been focused on improving law enforcement while addressing community development needs. So very much focused on combating wildlife crime, as well as general landscape management and community engagement. We're recognizing that we need to balance these as we look to move forward. And in addition to the landscape work that we've been doing, we've also had a regional sort of learning and monitoring program that's been testing new innovations, which we had the opportunity to highlight some of those yesterday here. Share lessons and improving sort of coordination between all the actors. We also work closely with our other U.S. government partners, including Department of State, my colleague who's here, in particular the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, the different individual embassies in each of the member state countries, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and to a lesser extent, our Department of Justice, to ensure that we're doing a coordinated response on our side, so when we come to coordinate with Saddaq. And so we have a very mature portfolio that we designed about 7 years ago in a broad-based, very, I think, collaborative and inclusive process. And now we are getting ready to move into our new design. So over the next year, we are looking to redesign our entire portfolio, and we'll be reaching out and look forward to having many stakeholder engagements to really help to identify some of the gaps to improve our current programming with leaning in on science and the lessons that we've learned both from our previous work and I think also from this last couple of years in COVID. On the financing gap question, I recently just returned to the region, so this is a wonderful opportunity for me to get to meet everyone and to see everyone outside of those little boxes on screens. So thank you all, and I look forward to getting to know you all more. It's great to hear, and congratulations on the financing facility. And also it's great to hear the new opportunities with the EU. I think we will be exploring all options as we look in our design. I would also think, so a challenge for us is thinking about COVID has really shown us the need for diversification of income streams. So really thinking about what that looks like and how we can, catalyze that process. Don't have the answers, and I look forward to having this conversation. I caught the last part of the last session that went into this one. So really thinking about what our value proposition is and how we bring that private sector resource in addition to the great resources that we will bring and pool from ourselves. But how do we leverage all of that capability, particularly in the Southern Africa region, which has strong private sector. There was a lot of investment opportunities. How do we prepare ourselves? Having come from working in Southeast Asia for the last several years and working in this space, also recognizing, I have recognized, it is a new vocabulary, it's a new skill set for us. Speaking to one another, speaking to private sector, how do we meet them where they are? And how do we identify those sort of joint opportunities where we have objectives that overlap? So for us, it's really, we're in a learning phase, we're in a reflection of where we've been, and then hoping to craft our new way forward.
Thank you very much, Ms. Angela of the USAID Southern Africa. Ms. Angela walked us through some of the important milestones and takeaways which USAID has experienced, and from the lesson learned, USAID Southern Africa has been focusing on transboundary conservation work, combating illegal wildlife crime, landscape management, law enforcement, and via community engagement. And Ms. Chantal stressed it's very important to balance these key activities. As a cross-cutting, Ms. Chantal highlighted it's important to share lessons learned and coordinate among different actors and continue working with the US agencies for supporting Saddaq's work. And right now, the USAID Southern Africa is in the process of reviewing its collaboration and the work for the past 7 years, starting in 2023, and managing all stakeholders. And for the challenges, Ms. Chantal highlighted that lesson learned from COVID, it's important to further examine project specification and income streams, and for value proposition and bringing in real private investments. For Southern Africa, and USAID hope to continue its journey and looking forward collaboration with all of us for Southern Africa in the near future. Thank you. With this, Mr. Chipangura, you have the floor.
Hope people can hear me, because I can't hear myself. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share our experiences and what we are doing in Zimbabwe in relation to TFCAs. We are implementing a project in the Zambezi Valley from Zimbabwe on strengthening biodiversity and ecosystem management in the lower to mid-Zambezi region. And the question is, where do TFCAs come in this project, which is being implemented by UNDP with support from Jeff on the Zimbabwean side. We've got common issues with our colleagues in Zambia and Mozambique, and at the inception of this project, it was noted that most of the problems that we have can only be solved when we deal with transboundary issues. And so there was a suggestion to support the Zimbabwe government to engage its partners in establishment of the Lower Zambezi Manapus TFCA and also the Zimoza. I am quite encouraged by what I've heard from previous speakers in terms of investment from the financing facility, from the proposals from the EU, because we're discussing ourselves to say, okay, we support from this project the Zimbabwe government to engage its partners to set up a structure for the TFCAs. And this is a project that will end in 2024, and then what happens? What is the financing structure? What is the sustainability of our actions? And I'm happy that there is a financing facility. There are other players already that are thinking ahead in terms of how the TFCAs will be supported. So from our project, we have support, at least for the Zimbabwe government, to contribute, to attend meetings, and also to engage partners in partner countries for the Lower Zambezi Manapus National Park, to engage the government of Zambia, and also again for the Zimoza, the Zimbabwe government, to engage the government of Mozambique and Zambia as well. So we think this is seed money that will allow the Zimbabwe government to play a role in engaging partners, and also this fits well with what has been said. So it's just a contribution from the project, because we are working in the Lower Zambezi, and this is area bordering Zambia and Mozambique, and this is just our contribution in terms of seed money and facilitating activities by the Zimbabwe government. We already have funded a baseline study which is still underway, just to collect baseline information around the three countries in the border areas, and this project is currently underway and will be completed soon. So this is just a contribution of the Zimbabwe country office and with funding from Jeff that will assist the Zimbabwe government to contribute to the two TFCAs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chipangura of USAID, I'm sorry, UNDP. Mr. Chipangura has highlighted the importance of his JEF6 project in Zambezi Valley from Zimbabwe side, and to ensure biodiversity ecosystem management. And this project is ending in 2024. And currently, he has secured the Zimbabwe government, buy-in and ownership in establishing Lower Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Areas and Moza. And he sees that the value of SADC TFCA Financing Facility mechanism providing seed funding for government of Zimbabwe to take a leading role in advancing the establishment of the TFCAs. And he sees that our TFCA financing facility could provide sustainability solutions beyond 2024. So thank you very much for bringing in the real-life example of the ongoing JEF6 project in Zimbabwe as the synergy and complementarity and benefits for SADC TFCA financing facility. Thank you very much for all the panelists. And now I would like to open the floor to the audience for questions to the panelists. Is there any questions from the floor to the panelists? Perhaps all the panelists' interventions are very, to the point and comprehensive. It is yes, we hear yes. It was an amazing intervention from all panelists, and it, all, the points maximized each other for the importance of SADC TFCA Financing Facility and exciting future partnership and collaborations. Yes, please.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Bushir from Mozambique, and actually their presentations, they're clear. That's why we don't have any questions. But we also know how are our many problems, and we know the funders are there. The donors are available to help us, but we mainly know our problems. It's about the institutional capacity. We have to work together. We know that we have to work together, but more of the countries, they used to come for this meeting to push money for themselves. So this is our problem, and we know we have to change that. But to change that, first we have to improve our institutional capacity. So how could be your suggestions to us to improve our self-capacity, institutional capacity first, and then we can see this vision on the future to come together and apply for these funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. So, the audience, on behalf of the audience, he's asking for your advice. How can he help strengthen the institutional capacity before applying for the funding from the SADC TFCA Financing Facility? Is there any panelist who would like to take this question? Yes, Mr. Kasten, please.
Yeah, I can try. It's of course a very difficult, relevant question because didn't like what you said with your last sentence, saying how can we enhance the capacity before we apply. I mean, it has to go together, And I think I already said that. Can here speak for the German cooperation. We do have a program financial cooperation and technical cooperation. So our GIZ colleagues are supporting, for instance, the SADC Secretariat in many technical issues, and we had the inauguration session of the pavilion where this was also highlighted. So there are these technical cooperation programs, and it's then part of the governments, the national governments, to channel the funds of cooperation in the respective negotiations to this capacity building. But I would say it has to go together. I think the TFCA facility itself, they have also mechanisms. So Iucn is supporting here also the member states in developing their proposals and helping in bringing in good proposals and then steering the proposals through the application process. And I think this is something that has to be approached then by the interested institutions or projects. And for the concrete case of the TFCA financing facility, please contact the team of Kuda. She is the one leading on that, and they will help you there. The broader thing of institutional development is a very, very large discussion. There are instruments for that, but I think this is not the place to discuss it here now. But the question is very relevant. Thank you.
I mean, what I've been saying in previous presentations is that Nature Africa is only one aspect. Already just in environment, It's one aspect. We have forest partnerships, and in fact we have one that we're negotiating with Zambia at the moment. That's, again, it's only one of our sectors. Our commissioner, so the equivalent of a minister for you, is very much interested in education. And you may have heard about Erasmus, which is an exchange system that we have since a very long time and that we're going to be continuing to do. So that's another aspect. Again, like Carsten, we're going to be working with Fruji IZ, that's going to be helping us to work with the SADC Secretariat. That's another envelope of 4 million that's sort of coming along to help us work better together. But it's something that's, I mean, we all learn. It's not, we're also in it together as well. You know, through our cooperation ongoing, we've got national programs, and that's where I'm sure ministers are going to make sure in the discussions that they have with us that there is part that goes to the protected area and in its landscape, and then if they feel that their administration needs to be reinforced and that we could be useful to them, they will discuss it with us and we will find ways of working together.
So maybe just to add for us, so from an individual country perspective, we have bilateral mission in Mozambique, and so our role is really on that sort of that transboundary, multi-country sort of solutions. But I mean, as we look forward, I mean, we will be exploring the ideas of thematic areas of sort of, you know, need of different kinds of engagement where we could bring, you know, multiple countries together for different kinds of learning. One, to learn, but also to share and learn with each other and ourselves as well. And so, I mean, this will be part of the kind of conversation we'll be trying to identify those areas of commonality that also created in Maputo, that hopefully are working alongside you, looking at building around joint objectives. But an incredibly valid point and something that we do want to look at continuing to engage with.
Thank you very much. The panelists confirmed that instead of thinking donor versus recipient, why not we work together as a team and start the co-creation of the project and program, and naturally that will resolve your institutional capacity building issue. That's the key message the panelists are delivering. And unfortunately, our time is against us, so we need to close this exciting panel discussions. But it was a great success. We had several, pledges for bringing in additional partnerships and resources in capitalizing TFCA Saddaq Financing Facility for transfrontier conservation areas in Southern Africa, for biodiversity outcomes, and for the benefit of people and local community in Southern Africa. With this, we would like to close the panel discussions and invite Barry for closing remarks. But once again, please, big round of applause for all 4 distinguished panelists from development partners. Thank you so much.
Thank you, colleagues. Mine is going to be very short and sweet. This is where I am the obstacle between yourselves and your snacks or lunch, and possibly networking opportunities. So let's make it easier. The old man once said, it is impossible up until it's done. That's what our great Nelson Mandela said many years back, and he's been a very strong patron for Iucn and an advocate for the biodiversity work and environmental work. We have taken note of all the proposals, all the engagements, all the ideas that has been shared here. And to make it much more easier, we know that the systems exist, the lessons are there, and we want to do things better. We can only do this better when we've got our political leadership, partnerships that has been expressed, development strategies that helps us in terms of addressing the key needs and areas for the Saddaq region. Having said that, colleagues, let me bring to close this particular session by thanking the honorable dignitaries, ministers, and all the development partners for their role that they've played so far. And then I would like to invite you for a very nice snack out there. But I'm going to keep the dignitaries for one moment to call up all of them to come to the front so we can have a group photo with the TFCA team. So thank you to all of you, and then we'll share all the information around the TFCA on the Iucn website. Thank you very much.